Welcome to the Conspiracy Theory Iceberg, a series that takes you deep into an esoteric world where the truth is not clearly defined and the facts are often stranger than fiction. Prepare to question everything you thought you knew and to use your own critical thinking abilities to separate fact from fiction. The Global Consciousness Project is a long standing experiment initiated in 1998. This experiment is designed to explore the potential influence of collective human consciousness on random physical processes. Spearheaded by Roger Nelson, who was previously associated with the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Lab, the project utilizes a global network of random number generators. These random number generations, often referred to as eggs, detect subtle deviations from expected randomness during significant global events. The underlying hypothesis is that during moments of global focus or emotional intensity, human consciousness may collectively influence these RNGs, leading to detectable patterns that diverge from statistical randomness. The GCP network operates continuously, collecting data from RNGs situated in over 70 locations worldwide. These devices generate random sequences of numbers that, under normal conditions, should not show any discernible patterns. The project examines specific events that capture widespread attention, such as natural disasters, major cultural or religious celebrations, and large-scale human-caused catastrophes. The purpose of this is to see if these events are associated with statistically significant deviations in these random sequences. Over the years, the GCP has documented hundreds of such events, with the data suggesting varying degrees of correlation between the events and the anomalies detected in RNG outputs. For example, the project has analyzed data surrounding global celebrations like New Year's Eve and international efforts like synchronized global meditations. Some of these events have shown strong correlations with deviations from randomness, while others have shown none. Despite these mixed results, the overall analysis suggests that there may be a subtle, yet persistent influence of collective consciousness on random physical systems. The GCP argues that these findings point to the existence of a global consciousness. They define this as a shared, non-localized mind space that can exert influence on the physical world when large groups are mentally synchronized. The concept of global consciousness aligns with various philosophical and cultural ideas that posit an interconnectedness of all human beings at a fundamental level. Critics of the GCP argue that the methodology is flawed and that the observed deviations could be the result of statistical anomalies or selection bias rather than a genuine effect of global consciousness. Furthermore, some skeptics point out that not all significant global events produce the expected deviations in RNG outputs. Despite these criticisms, the project has remained a focal point for discussions on the potential intersections between consciousness and manifesting physical reality. Despite its groundbreaking potential, as discussed, the project has faced significant skepticism and efforts to discredit its findings. Some argue that these efforts at, quote, debunking are not purely based on scientific critique, but are motivated by the elite's desire to keep such information from gaining widespread acceptance. The notion that human consciousness could influence the physical world challenges the traditional scientific paradigms and threatens established power structures. If proven true, the GCP's findings could empower individuals by demonstrating the interconnectedness of human thought and its potential to affect change on a global scale. This realization could undermine the control that elites have over the narratives that are used to manufacture consent. Additionally, media coverage of the GCP is minimal, and when it is mentioned, it is often framed within a skeptical or dismissive context, or with the note that it has been debunked. This lack of serious engagement by mainstream media further suggests that there may be an intentional effort to keep the project out of public discourse, And just as a quick editorial note, I decided to put this entry first because I'm curious how many viewers had even heard about the project before watching this video. Nikola Tesla was born on July 10th, 1856, in what was then the Austrian Empire. He is perhaps best known to the general public for developing the alternating current electrical system, which revolutionized the way electricity is delivered to homes and businesses. While for most people this would perhaps be the most interesting thing about them, this may actually be one of the least interesting things about Nikola Tesla. Tesla was, to put it bluntly, not a normal individual and behaved in ways completely alien to those around him. For instance, he was obsessed with the numbers 3, 6, and 9. Tesla held to the belief that these numbers held the key to understanding the universe. He incorporated these numbers into his daily life and work routines, often performing tasks in multiples of 3. Tesla's fascination with wireless power transmission led him to build the Wardenclyffe Tower. This was an ambitious project intended to demonstrate the transmission of electrical power without wires. Despite his grand vision, the project failed to secure ongoing financial support and was eventually dismantled. This failure, however, has fueled numerous conspiracy theories about lost or suppressed technologies capable of providing energy through the airwaves. Further, some conspiracy theorists and alternative historians argue that Tesla was involved in the Tunguska event of 1908. These theorists suggest that Tesla's experiments with wireless energy transmission might have caused the massive explosion in Siberia. Tesla himself had claimed that his technology could transmit energy over vast distances, potentially with destructive force. After Nikola Tesla's passing on January 7, 1943, the fate of his extensive collection of notes, blueprints, prototypes, and research documents added fuel to the conspiracy theories. His collection is believed to contain many of his scientific ideas and unfinished projects, many of which were highly advanced for his time. Suspiciously, upon his death, Tesla's belongings were seized by the Office of Alien Property Custodian, a U.S. government office responsible for handling the property of foreign nationals. This is unusual, given that the Office of Alien Property Custodian only had the authority over, surprise, the property of non-citizens. Tesla was a naturalized American citizen, which has caused people to question why this agency took the property. Some speculate that there was no legal means to confiscate the files, so the government, eager to get their hands on this esoteric and powerful knowledge, simply stole his research. Tesla had claimed to have developed numerous revolutionary technologies, including a death ray capable of unprecedented destructive power, wireless energy transmission, and other futuristic inventions. The potential military applications of such technologies likely sparked government interest. Despite numerous requests for transparency, many of Tesla's files remained classified for decades. Some documents were released, but the most intriguing and potentially game-changing papers were either lost, heavily redacted, or never declassified. This lack of transparency has fueled numerous conspiracy theories. Some suggest that the U.S. government retained the most sensitive information for military research, or that these files contain technology that could disrupt existing energy markets. Adding to the mystery, John G. Trump, a noted electrical engineer and the uncle of former President Donald Trump, was one of the scientists called upon to review Tesla's papers. In his report, Trump claimed that Tesla's notes did not contain any new or practical breakthroughs, and the evidence was not of any value. If this was accurate, one may question why the research has not yet been fully released over 80 years after Tesla's passing. So there's an interesting theory floating around out there about the timing of the theft of Tesla's life's work and the rise of UFO sightings. At the time of Tesla's death, The U.S. was in the midst of World War II, and there was intense interest in technologies that could provide a strategic advantage. This period also coincided with the beginning of the modern UFO era. In 1947, just 4 years after Tesla's death, the famous Roswell incident occurred, sparking a surge of UFO sightings across the United States. Some conspiracy theorists argue that these sightings were linked to secret government projects based on Tesla's technology. The missing papers, they suggest, contained groundbreaking discoveries that the U.S. government either replicated or reverse engineered to create advanced aircraft or weapon systems. These objects were then mistaken for UFOs either unintentionally or as part of a psyop covering up the true nature of this advanced weapon system. If the government did indeed harness Tesla's secret ideas, it's possible they could have developed aircraft with capabilities so advanced that they seemed otherworldly. While there is no definitive proof linking Tesla's confiscated papers directly to the rise in UFO sightings, the timing and circumstances have fueled speculation. Further, the lack of connection made between the confiscation of Tesla's life's work and the rise of the UFO phenomenon in mainstream conspiracy sources naturally raises further questions. Big Soy. In the last number of years, conspiracy theorists have become increasingly wary over the soy industry's influence over society. But first, it's necessary to do a brief background on just how significant the soy industry actually is, and it may shock you. The soy industry in the United States is a major agricultural sector, with the country being one of the largest producers and exporters of soybeans globally. Last year, the U.S. produced almost 5 billion bushels of soybeans, with an estimated value of around $44 billion. This makes soybeans one of the most significant cash crops in the country, only second to corn in terms of acreage and production value. The industry is supported by large agribusiness companies which play a vital role in both production and distribution. The Big Soy conspiracy theory alleges that the soy industry, with backing from powerful corporate interests, is manipulating public opinion and health policy to promote soy consumption despite its purported dangers. Proponents of this theory claim that soy, widely marketed as a health food, is actually detrimental to human health, contributing to a range of issues from hormonal imbalances to worse. Detractors of soy point to its phytoestrogen content, which they claim can disrupt endocrine function. Phytoestrogens are plant-derived compounds that can mimic estrogen in the body. Some conspiracy theorists argue that the promotion of soy is a deliberate attempt to feminize men and disrupt natural hormonal balances, thereby weakening populations overall. Another angle of the conspiracy suggests that soy consumption is linked to infertility. The theory puts forth that by promoting soy-based products, which are prevalent in vegan and vegetarian diets, there is an attempt to reduce global population growth. This idea ties into broader conspiracies around population control, where influential groups are accused of engineering demographic shifts for their own benefit. Further conspiracy theorists point to the widespread inclusion of soy in processed foods, animal feed, and infant formulas as evidence of a coordinated effort to saturate diets with this substance. Another aspect of the conspiracy theory comes from the extensive lobbying done by the soy industry. The soy industry is backed by a powerful network of lobbyists who advocate for policies that support soybean farmers, processors, and related industries. These lobbyists work on behalf of large agribusiness companies, trade associations, and farmer cooperatives to influence legislation and regulations at both the state and federal levels. One of the most prominent organizations representing the interests of the soy industry is the American Soybean Association. The ASA is a major player in agricultural lobbying, advocating for policies that benefit soybean producers, such as subsidies, trade agreements, and research funding. The organization has a significant presence in Washington, D.C., where it lobbies Congress and federal agencies on individual laws, environmental regulations, and international trade. In addition to direct lobbying, the soy industry uses campaign contributions and PACs to support candidates who favor policies beneficial to their interests. Generation Z has been propagandized to believe they have no souls. The concept of the soul has been central to virtually every religious and cultural tradition throughout history, and is also deeply rooted in certain aspects of philosophy. It is generally understood as the immaterial essence of a being, often regarded as the seat of consciousness, identity, and personality. In most religious traditions, the soul is seen as an essential part of human existence, often thought to survive physical death. For instance, in Christianity, the soul is typically viewed as immortal and is believed to face judgment after death, leading to eternal life in heaven or damnation in hell. This concept has been shaped by the influence of Greek philosophy, particularly the ideas of Plato, who put forth that the soul is an eternal, non-physical entity that both pre-exists and outlasts the body. In Eastern religions such as Hinduism and Buddhism, the soul is central to the belief in reincarnation. The soul is seen as an eternal essence that passes through cycles of birth, death, and rebirth until it achieves liberation. This cycle, known as samsara, is driven by karma, the unbendable moral law of cause and effect. Unlike in Abrahamic religions, the soul in these traditions is not judged by a divine being, but is subject to this natural law. That said, while the conception of judgment is different, the idea that the actions takes in one's life leads to consequences from the soul is found across both Western and Eastern religious traditions. This virtually universal belief allows humans to consider the consequences of their actions on a chain of causality that will last beyond their physical body. However, the soul hasn't just been the domain of religious traditions, but philosophy as well. In ancient Greece, the soul was a central concept in the philosophies of Plato and Aristotle. Plato argued that the soul is the true essence of a person, which seeks to reunite with the divine realm from which it originated. Aristotle, while influenced by Plato, took a more empirical approach. He viewed the soul as the form of a living being, not a separate entity, but rather the life principle that animates the body. For Aristotle, the body is inseparable from the soul, as the soul was thought to be the actuality of a living body. During the Enlightenment, the concept of the soul came under scrutiny as philosophers sought to reconcile religious beliefs with emerging scientific knowledge. However, it's important to note that at this time, virtually all philosophers accepted the concept of the soul, even if they disagreed on what this substance actually was. As of 2024, approximately 81 to 85% of Americans of all ages believe that people have a soul or spirit in addition to their physical body. However, also as of 2024, only approximately 60% of Zoomers in the United States believe in the existence of a soul or some form of spiritual essence. This represents a significant portion of the generation, although it's drastically lower compared to older generations. According to conspiracy theorists, we're witnessing the systematic stripping away of the spiritual foundation that has held humanity together for millennia in real time. They argue that Zoomers have been groomed to embrace materialism like no generation before, given their constant exposure to the internet throughout their lives. Given the obsession with material wealth and the constant reinforcement of materialism through social media, they argue that individual belief in the soul is eroded even further. The ultimate goal of this lack of belief in the soul is to keep an entire generation compliant and docile, while also endlessly consuming. Some theorists go one step further and promote the idea that the ultimate goal is to eliminate the soul completely and turn conscious individuals into NPCs. Also, stay tuned because I'll be discussing a disturbing theory about NPCs, or non player characters for all you non gamers, very shortly. The Trilateral Commission, founded in 1973 by David Rockefeller, is an influential yet secretive organization that many argue plays a pivotal role in shaping global policies. The Commission has been scrutinized for its perceived influence on global governance and for its membership, which includes a who's who of political, corporate, and academic elites. Officially, the Trilateral Commission was established to foster cooperation among the United States, Western Europe, and Japan during a period of increasing global interdependence. However, critics argue that this ostensibly benign mission conceals a deeper agenda that remains hidden in plain sight. They claim the real agenda is for consolidation of power among a global elite with the intent of exerting undue influence over national governments and international institutions. Membership in the Trilateral Commission is by invitation only and is drawn from the upper echelons of society, including former heads of state, top executives, and other prominent people. To quote George Carlin, "It's a big club, and you ain't in it." This exclusivity has fueled skepticism about the Commission's true intentions. Critics assert that the organization functions less as a forum for discussion and more as a platform for the coordination of a globalist agenda. The inclusion of influential figures such as Zbigniew Brzezinski, Henry Kissinger, and Paul Volcker has amplified concerns about the intertwining of public policy with private interests. One theory suggests that the Commission's real power lies in its ability to align the interests of its members with those of major international institutions, such as the IMF and the World Bank. The Commission itself emphasizes its independence from government bodies. However, the overlap between its members and extremely high-level placements within governments and international organizations suggests otherwise. Detractors argue that the Commission's discussions and policy recommendations often translate directly into governmental action, bypassing democratic processes and accountability. For instance, the Commission has been linked to the promotion of neoliberal economic policies that prioritize free markets and deregulation over all else. These policies have been criticized for exacerbating income inequality and undermining national sovereignty in favor of corporations which members of the Commission have an interest in. Also, meetings are held behind closed doors, and while summaries of discussions are sometimes released, the full content and implications of these meetings remain inaccessible to the public. This secrecy has fueled speculation that the Commission serves as a shadow government, where decisions that affect millions are made without public oversight. Further conspiracy theorists also argue that there may be a connection between the Trilateral Commission and other even more shadowy groups. The idea of a connection between the Trilateral Commission and the Illuminati often draws on the overlap between its membership and other elite organizations. Members of the Trilateral Commission are almost always associated direct with groups such as the Bilderberg Group and the Council on Foreign Relations. However, there's also a conspiracy theory associated with the conspiracy theories surrounding the Trilateral Commission. This suggests that the most extreme and sensational conspiracies about the Trilateral Commission, particularly those linking it to secret societies like the Illuminati, are themselves a psyop. This theory posits that such outlandish claims are deliberately propagated to discredit legitimate criticism of the Commission. By associating any critique of the Trilateral Commission with fringe ideas about world domination and ancient secret societies, the theory argues that serious concerns are dismissed outright. For instance, it's argued that the Commission's influence on global politics and potential conflicts of interest among its elite members is lumped together with issues that can be dismissed as paranoia. Proponents of this view suggest that by flooding the discourse with implausible conspiracy theories, the real issues surrounding the Trilateral Commission's operations and influence are obscured. This plays into the reality discussed previously in the series that the CIA played a substantial role in the development of the term conspiracy theorist for the purposes of shutting down opposition. As always, the ability to discern truth from deception is within your hands and your critical thinking abilities. The Mariana UFO incident occurred on August 15, 1950, in Great Falls, Montana. The event was named after Nick Mariana, the general manager of the Great Falls Electrics, a minor league baseball team, who captured the sighting on film. At 11:30 a.m., Mariana and his secretary, Virginia Raunig, were inspecting the empty Legion Stadium when they observed two bright, silvery objects moving rapidly across the sky. Mariana quickly retrieved his movie camera, which he presumably owned for the purposes of baseball recordings, and filmed the objects for 16 seconds. The footage shows the objects moving at high speed, stopping abruptly, and changing direction, maneuvers that seemed impossible for conventional aircraft of the time. The footage and incident drew significant attention and were investigated by various authorities, including the U.S. Air Force. Initially, the investigation was part of Project Grudge, which aimed to debunk UFO reports. The Air Force concluded that the objects were reflections from two F-94 jet fighters, but this explanation was widely dismissed due to the objects' unusual behavior and appearance. In 1952, the case was re-examined under Project Blue Book, a more extensive Air Force study of UFO phenomena. The Blue Book report suggested that the objects might have been caused by a refraction phenomenon due to temperature inversions. However, this too was criticized for not addressing the abrupt movements captured in the film. Nick Mariana claimed that the initial frames of his film, which allegedly showed the objects as spinning discs, were removed during an analysis by the Air Force. This claim added to the controversy and suspicion surrounding the incident. Over the years, various experts have analyzed the footage and have reached varied conclusions. Some have suggested that the objects were high-altitude balloons or experimental aircraft, while others have entertained the possibility of extraterrestrial craft. Some skeptics argue that Mariana might have misinterpreted ordinary objects or even fabricated parts of the story. However, the consistency of the witness accounts and the scrutiny of the film argue against a simple hoax. The original film is preserved in the U.S. National Archives and continues to be a subject of analysis and debate. However, it's important to remember that according to Mariana, this isn't the original unedited footage. Hey everyone, it's Jimmy here, taking a quick moment to promote my work and my channel. If you're enjoying my content, remember to hit the like button and also to subscribe and share it with your friends. I think this series has a lot of important and esoteric knowledge that people ought to know, and if you agree, the share button is the best way to get word out. The best part is that unlike other methods of supporting the channel, passing this video on is totally free. Little St. James, the Epstein Island. Jeffrey Epstein's ownership and use of Little St. James in the U.S. Virgin Islands has become one of the most infamous aspects of his disturbing life. Purchased in 1998 for approximately $8 million, the island served as Epstein's private retreat, where he hosted a wide variety of influential guests. Epstein, who claimed to be a financier and claimed to have amassed a considerable fortune in a conventional way, used the island as an exclusive getaway for the elite. The 70-acre island featured opulent accommodations, including a sprawling mansion, guest houses, and recreational facilities. The island was not just a place of leisure, but also a site where Epstein conducted much of his quote-unquote business. Given the secluded nature of Little St. James, it offered Epstein a level of privacy he needed to conduct his nefarious deeds. Over the years, Epstein's connections to powerful and influential figures came into sharper focus, particularly following his 2008 conviction for a disgusting offense. Despite this conviction, he somehow continued to maintain his social and business networks, and the island remained a hub for his activities. Epstein's ability to navigate legal challenges while maintaining his lifestyle on the island has been a subject of much speculation by conspiracy theorists and will be discussed in this series. The acquisition and development of Little St. James were part of Epstein's broader pattern of accumulating properties that reflected his influence. Besides Little St. James, Epstein owned numerous properties in New York, Florida, and New Mexico, each reflecting his penchant for luxury and, perhaps more importantly, privacy. Epstein's death in 2019, while awaiting trial on charges of trafficking, cast a long shadow over Little St. James. Following his death, the island was subjected to raids by the FBI and other federal agencies, who claimed they were searching for evidence related to the charges against Epstein. Notably, many conspiracy theorists suggest that this wasn't so much an evidence-gathering mission, but a cover-up. The presence of high-profile guests on the island has fueled much speculation. While some visitors have acknowledged their presence there, others have denied any association, despite significant evidence to the contrary. Despite this, the exact nature of many of the events that took place on the island remains unclear and subject to extremely disturbing speculation. Seriously, it's all so much worse than you can even imagine. The origins of the Black Knight satellite conspiracy can be traced back to the pioneering inventor Nikola Tesla, who we just covered. In 1899, while conducting experiments with radio signals in Colorado Springs, Tesla claimed to have received strange signals from outer space. He interpreted these signals as potentially coming from an intelligent source, possibly extraterrestrial in nature. Although present-day science suggests Tesla might have picked up natural radio waves from space phenomena like pulsars, his claims laid the groundwork for the Black Knight legend. In 1927, Norwegian engineer Jürgen Hals reported receiving unexplained radio echoes that were delayed by several seconds. These long-delayed echoes were a mystery and were picked up by New Age authors in the early 1970s, suggesting extraterrestrial visitation. The conspiracy gained more traction during the space race. In 1960, radar operated by the U.S. Navy detected an unidentified object in a polar orbit, which was unusual since most known satellites orbited along the equator. Initial fears of it being a Soviet spy satellite were quelled when it was identified as debris from a U.S. Air Force satellite. However, for conspiracy theorists, this incident was pivotal in linking the object to the Black Knight satellite and the start of an active cover-up. In 1963, astronaut Gordon Cooper allegedly reported seeing a UFO during his 15th orbit aboard the Mercury 9 mission. Despite later denials and lack of official evidence in mission transcripts, this incident is often cited by proponents of the Black Knight satellite theory. The most famous piece of evidence associated with the Black Knight satellite comes from the STS-88 mission in 1998. During this mission, astronauts aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour captured images of a mysterious black object floating in space. This object was later identified by NASA as a thermal blanket that had come loose during an extravehicular activity. Despite this explanation, the images fueled conspiracy theories, with many insisting it was the Black Knight satellite. According to theorists, NASA continues to cover up the reality of the Black Knight satellite until this day, though the reasoning for doing so remains speculative. According to the official explanation, all of the incidents discussed in this section are completely unrelated and have been cobbled together into a cohesive narrative by conspiracy theorists. The Allagash abduction is one of the most intriguing UFO abduction cases from New England and occurred in the remote wilderness of Allagash, Maine, in August 1976. This case involves 4 men, twin brothers Jack and Jim Weiner, Charlie Foltz, and Chuck Rack, all young art students from Massachusetts. The story begins on August 20th, 1976, when the four friends were on a canoeing trip along the Allagash Wilderness Waterway. That night, while they were night fishing on Eagle Lake, they saw a bright light in the sky. Initially, they thought it was a helicopter or a plane, but the light seemed too bright and unusual. As they watched, the light moved closer, and they began to feel uneasy. In an attempt to signal the light, Charlie Foltz used a flashlight to send an SOS signal. The light responded by approaching rapidly, causing the men to panic and paddle frantically back to shore. Suddenly, everything went black, and the men felt a loss of consciousness or period of amnesia. When they regained consciousness, they found themselves back at their campsite, but with a sense of missing time. The large bonfire they had set before their excursion had burned down to embers, suggesting they had been away much longer than they perceived. Years later, the men began experiencing disturbing nightmares recounting what had occurred. Jack Weiner's dreams were particularly vivid, involving strange beings with large heads and eyes. According to Jack, these creatures were conducting a variety of examinations on him. These dreams were shared by the other men, prompting them to seek help from a UFO researcher, Raymond Fowler. Fowler recommended regressive hypnosis to uncover any suppressed memories, and in an attempt to corroborate their accounts. Under hypnosis, all four men recounted being taken aboard a spacecraft. On this spacecraft, they were subjected to various medical examinations by humanoid beings with large metallic eyes and insect-like hands. The descriptions of their abduction were consistent and detailed. The men recalled being paralyzed and unable to resist as they were examined using strange instruments. These sessions revealed a shared experience of being transferred from their canoes into the UFO via a tube-like beam of light. The men also passed polygraph tests, adding credibility to their claims, or at least providing significant evidence that they believed their accounts subjectively. Despite the detailed accounts and the consistency of their stories, skepticism remains. Critics argue that the use of hypnosis and the possibility of suggestibility among the men might have influenced their recollections. Some suggest that the shared memories could be the result of group dynamics and the power of suggestion. Notably, one of the men, Chuck Rack, later indicated that he just went along with most of the narrative. However, he did admit to seeing the strange lights associated with the abduction. Nevertheless, the Allagash abduction remains a compelling case in the wider body of UFO lore. The conspiracy theory that a significant portion of the population consists of non-player characters, better known as NPCs, has gained significant traction in the last few years. This theory claims that many individuals in society are not fully conscious beings, but rather, they function as automatons, programmed to follow a set of predetermined behaviors. The term NPC originates from video games, where it refers to characters that are not controlled by players, but by the game's artificial intelligence. These characters have limited interactivity and are typically programmed to perform specific roles, such as providing information, serving as quest givers, or simply populating the game world for immersion. In the context of the conspiracy theory, NPCs are seen as people who lack independent thought, creativity, or consciousness. They are instead seen as functioning on a kind of autopilot, dictated by societal norms and external programming. Some versions of the theory claim that they are literally empty vessels put here by the simulator, while more mild versions believe that they are conditioned to behave this way. The idea that some people might be NPCs in real life is closely related to simulation theory, which suggests that our reality could be an artificial construct akin to a highly advanced video game. This theory gained significant attention in online spaces, particularly after a meme featuring the NPC Wojak, a gray, expressionless character, went viral on platforms like 4chan. This meme was used to mock individuals perceived as conformists, or those who uncritically accept mainstream narratives without independent thought. According to proponents of the NPC theory, there are specific traits that might indicate someone is an NPC. NPCs are thought to exhibit a narrow spectrum of emotional responses, often appearing robotic or detached in their interactions. Further, their ranges of emotion and reactions to events is thought to be predictable. They are also perceived to always agree with the majority, without questioning or challenging the status quo. To put it in the language of the conspiracy, they act like automatons supporting what they're told to support and opposing what they are told to oppose. Perhaps one of the more intriguing claims is that NPCs do not possess an inner monologue, a feature that many consider essential to human consciousness. Studies suggesting that a significant portion of the population does not frequently engage in inner speech, and that some do not have it at all, has been cited as evidence. There are a number of additional theories that branch off NPC theory. One conspiracy theory suggests that mainstream media and social platforms are deliberately programming a portion of the population to become NPCs. The theory argues that repetitive and highly curated content across news outlets, social media, and entertainment industries conditions certain individuals to adopt predictable behaviors. The idea here is that these people, constantly bombarded with controlled information, lose the ability to think critically and instead operate on autopilot with scripted opinions and reactions. Further, there's the conspiracy theory that NPC theory itself is a psyop. This theory suggests that the belief in NPCs is actually a deliberate operation designed to manipulate and control public perception. According to this theory, the promotion of NPC narratives is intended to sow division and demoralize critical thinkers into believing most people are literally incapable of seeing the truth. This last point is perhaps most important to this psyop theory, as it suggests that these critical thinkers will no longer see any utility in expending effort on spreading their ideas and thoughts. After all, what would be the purpose of spreading your thoughts if the people on the other end are actually programmed not to comprehend you? Proponents of this conspiracy believe that the NPC theory was crafted by shadowy entities, possibly governmental or corporate, as a tool for psychological warfare. Further, by encouraging people to label others as NPCs, the psyop supposedly fosters a culture of distrust and alienation, making it easier for those in power to control the populace. Cho Hee-pal, known as one of South Korea's most infamous fraudsters, vanished in December 2011, leaving a trail of unanswered questions and fascinating conspiracy theories. Cho was the mastermind behind one of South Korea's largest pyramid schemes. From 2004 to 2008, he defrauded over 40,000 people out of the equivalent of $3.5 billion American, promising high returns on investments in bogus ventures. His operation was vast and well orchestrated, attracting investments from unsuspecting individuals across the country. In 2008, when the scheme collapsed, Cho became a wanted man. Facing mounting legal pressure and an impending arrest, he fled, sparking a nationwide manhunt. His ability to evade capture, despite widespread media coverage and law enforcement efforts, only added to the mystique of his case. Cho's disappearance occurred under highly suspicious circumstances. In late 2011, it was reported that he had been hiding in China, moving frequently to avoid capture. The South Korean authorities were on his trail, working with Chinese law enforcement to apprehend him. However, in December 2011, news broke that Cho had been suffering from a serious illness. Reports from his associates suggested that he was seeking medical treatment in various locations. further complicating efforts to track him down. It was during this period of medical instability that Cho fully disappeared. The absence of concrete evidence about Cho's whereabouts has led to numerous theories about his fate. One popular theory suggests that he used his extensive network and financial resources to create a new identity. This theory is supported by accounts from former associates who claim that Cho had planned his disappearance in advance, knowing that his capture would be inevitable otherwise. Another theory posits that Cho may have leveraged his connections in China to disappear into the country's vast landscape. This theory assumes he is living under the protection of corrupt officials who benefited from his financial schemes. This theory is bolstered circumstantially by the fact that several high-profile fugitives have previously found refuge in similar circumstances. Another conspiracy theory suggests that Cho had either been a Chinese asset or a Chinese agent the entire time, and that his purpose was to destabilize South Koreans financially. Cho's fraud and disappearance has had a profound impact on his victims and the South Korean public, and has diminished trust in financial institutions, which some say is evidence of orchestration. Alchemy represents an ancient mystical and pre-scientific tradition that has spanned various cultures and time periods. Alchemy's primary objectives included the transmutation of base metals into noble ones, particularly gold, the creation of the philosopher's stone, and the quest for immortality through the elixir of life. Despite being frequently dismissed in the modern era as mere pseudoscience, mainstream scholars accept that alchemy played a pivotal role in shaping the development of early modern science. The origins of alchemy can be traced back to the Greco-Roman world, where it was initially influenced by the philosophies of Plato and Aristotle. Aristotle, in particular, invented the theory of the four elements: earth, water, air, and fire. These elements were believed to be the fundamental building blocks of all matter. The concept that these elements could be manipulated to transform one substance into another was central to alchemical thought. This idea was further developed by alchemists in the Islamic world, who preserved and expanded upon the knowledge inherited from the Greeks. These alchemists were instrumental in preserving and translating Greek texts into Arabic, ensuring that this knowledge would later be transmitted back to medieval Europe. The practice of alchemy in medieval Europe was heavily influenced by the translations of Arabic texts into Latin during the 12th century, as well as the rediscovery of ancient Greek texts. This period saw the emergence of a distinct European alchemical tradition that combined elements of mysticism, Christianity, and emerging scientific thought. Alchemy in Europe was often shrouded in secrecy, with practitioners using cryptic symbols and allegorical language to protect their knowledge. The pursuit of the philosopher's stone, believed to be a substance that could turn base metals into gold and grant eternal life, became a central theme in European alchemical literature. One of the most influential figures in European alchemy was Paracelsus, a 16th century Swiss physician and alchemist who is credited with creating the field of toxicology. Paracelsus rejected the purely mystical aspects of alchemy and emphasized its practical applications in medicine, advocating for the use of minerals and other chemical substances to treat diseases. His work laid the foundation for modern pharmacology and toxicology. Alchemy's connection to astrology and cosmology also played a significant role in its development. Alchemists believed that the macrocosm, the universe, and the microcosm, the individual human being, were interconnected, and that changes in the heavens could influence events on Earth. This belief led to the use of astrological symbols to represent metals and other substances in alchemical texts. For example, gold was associated with the sun, silver with the moon, and Mercury with the planet Mercury. Alchemists often timed their experiments to coincide with specific astrological events, believing that this would enhance the efficacy of their work. In the early modern period, alchemy began to intersect more directly with the emerging scientific disciplines of chemistry, physics, and biology. Alchemists were among the first to conduct systematic experiments, record their results, and develop theories based on empirical evidence. Early modern scientific thinkers like Isaac Newton and Robert Boyle were deeply influenced by alchemical ideas and practices. Newton, for example, spent considerable time studying alchemy and believed that it held the key to understanding the fundamental laws of nature. And when someone of the intellectual and spiritual capacity of Isaac Newton believes that it's a field that definitely requires more investigation, it just might. Despite its contributions to the development of modern science, alchemy eventually fell out of favor as the scientific revolution progressed. The rise of modern chemistry, with its emphasis on quantitative analysis and the rejection of mystical explanations, led to the marginalization of alchemical practices. The idea that alchemy is real and has been suppressed by elites forms the basis of a very long-standing conspiracy theory. Proponents argue that alchemy was not just a symbolic or proto-scientific practice, but a powerful and effective discipline capable of transforming matter and potentially even bestowing immortality. According to this theory, the true secrets of alchemy have been deliberately hidden from the general public by a powerful few who wish to monopolize this knowledge for their own gain. One of the central tenets of this conspiracy theory is the belief that the elites, including secret societies like the Freemasons or the Rosicrucians, possess ancient alchemical knowledge. This knowledge is thought to allow them to manipulate matter and extend their lives. If they are indeed able to extend their lives, according to this theory, they are able to continue to accrue influence for hundreds, or perhaps even thousands of years. Given the compounding power of time, and minus the ravages of age that come with the passage of time, it is theorized that these groups have accrued functionally infinite power. In the early hours of March 18, 1990, an audacious art heist unfolded at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston. Disguised as police officers, two thieves deceived the night guards into granting them entry under the pretext of investigating a disturbance. Once inside, the guards were subdued and the museum's security compromised in a matter of minutes. Over the next 81 minutes, the thieves executed a meticulously planned raid, stealing 13 artworks valued collectively at approximately $500 million. The stolen pieces included masterworks by Rembrandt as well as Vermeer. Also taken were a Chinese bronze beaker from the Shang dynasty and several works by Degas and Manet, among others. The methodical nature of the theft, which involved cutting paintings from their frames and avoiding leaving physical evidence, indicated a high level of professionalism. The investigation into the heist has spanned decades, with numerous leads pursued and theories proposed about the identity of the thieves and the location of the stolen art. Initial suspicions pointed to a local gang with connections to organized crime in New England and Philadelphia. Over the years, the FBI has focused on several individuals linked to the mob, including a member of the Boston Mafia, who was believed to have information about the artwork's whereabouts. Other suspects include the infamous Irish-American crime lord Whitey Bulger, who some think organized the theft as a means to fund Irish causes. Despite extensive efforts and a reward offer that climbed to $10 million, no conclusive evidence has surfaced to recover the artworks. Further, the key suspects have since passed away, without revealing any definitive clues as to the whereabouts of the art, if they were indeed involved. Notably, the empty frames in the museum continue to hang as placeholders for the missing pieces, symbolizing the hope of their eventual return. The case remains open, with the FBI actively investigating the heist, though at present, given the passage of time, resolution seems unlikely. The concept of the white pill is a term in many online subcultures that has gained traction as a symbol of optimism and resilience. Unlike other pill analogies, such as the red pill or black pill, which represent various forms of awakening to harsh truths or descending into despair, the white pill is fundamentally different. The white pill is rooted in the broader pill meme, which itself originates from the 1999 film The Matrix. In the film, taking the red pill allows the protagonist to awaken to the harsh reality of the world, whereas the blue pill would allow him to remain in blissful ignorance. Over time, this metaphor has been extended and adapted in various online communities to describe different philosophical stances. The white pill, in particular, emerged as a response to the nihilism of the black pill. The white pill is characterized by an acceptance of reality, combined with an optimistic attitude toward life. It promotes the idea that, even in the face of adversity, individuals should maintain hope and continue striving for personal growth and happiness. This worldview contrasts sharply with the black pill, which often leads to feelings of hopelessness and despair. At its core, the white pill philosophy advocates for optimism in the face of nihilism. This concept suggests that while life may not have inherent meaning, individuals have the power to create their own meaning and find contentment in their circumstances. This approach encourages a stoic acceptance of reality, coupled with the pursuit of personal happiness and self-improvement. Rather than being overwhelmed by difficulties, adherents are encouraged to adopt a can-do attitude, focusing on overcoming obstacles and achieving their goals. This mindset is not about blind positivity, but is instead rooted in a realistic assessment of one's situation and a deliberate choice to approach life with optimism. One conspiracy theory that has gained traction in certain online communities claims that global elites actively suppress the concept of the white pill because it represents a gateway to understanding. According to this theory, after accepting the white pill rather than the black pill, individuals are one step closer to harnessing the power of the law of attraction. Proponents of this theory argue that the white pill directly contrasts with the narrative of powerlessness that many believe is promoted by those in positions of authority. Supporters of this conspiracy theory suggest that the elites have a vested interest in maintaining a population that is disempowered and dependent. By suppressing the white pill, they supposedly prevent the masses from discovering the power of positive thinking and the law of attraction. This suppression is believed to keep people in a state of fear, negativity, and helplessness, making them easier to control. The connection between the white pill and the law of attraction is central to this conspiracy theory. By encouraging people to adopt a positive, proactive approach to life, the white pill is seen as a stepping stone to mastering the law of attraction. Once people realize that their thoughts can shape their reality, they may begin to challenge the existing power structures that rely on fear and control. Thus, the theory argues, elites suppress the white pill to prevent a widespread awakening to this power, especially amongst an online audience susceptible to doomerism. The Sajama Lines, located in the vast highlands of western Bolivia, are a captivating network of thousands of straight paths carved into the earth, covering an area of nearly 10,000 square miles. These ancient lines, visible only from the air, have been the subject of intrigue and speculation due to their size and precision. Historically, the origins of the Sajama lines remain a mystery. While they are believed to have been created by indigenous peoples living near the Sajama volcano over 3,000 years ago, the exact purpose of these geoglyphs is still not fully understood. Unlike the Nazca lines in Peru, which include depictions of animals and other figures, the Sajama lines primarily consist of straightforward paths and geometric shapes. This has led to various interpretations of their use and significance. One theory suggests that the lines served astronomical purposes. It is believed that these lines may have been used to mark celestial events like solstices and equinoxes, helping ancient peoples to understand and predict seasonal changes critical for agricultural practices. This astronomical alignment suggests a sophisticated knowledge of the stars and the cosmos, which was common in many ancient civilizations. Another prevailing theory is that the lines had a spiritual or ritualistic function. This is supported by the presence of shrines and burial towers along the routes, indicating their use in religious ceremonies or pilgrimages. These sacred journeys might have connected various cultural sites across the harsh landscape, creating a network of paths that held both symbolic and practical significance. Moreover, some scholars propose that the lines might have simply been practical in nature, possibly serving as guides for navigation across the high plateau. The lines connecting different villages, shrines, and water sources would have been crucial for the survival and intercommunication of various communities in such a remote and challenging environment. Recent efforts to preserve the Sahama lines include detailed mapping and analysis using geographic information systems. Others have speculated that these lines were either made as a means to communicate with extraterrestrial beings or made by these beings themselves. Despite these efforts, much about the Sahama lines remains a puzzle, mirroring the broader challenges of understanding prehistoric human practices and their interaction with the environment. The 1976 Tehran UFO incident. On the night of September 19, 1976, residents in the Tehran metro area reported seeing a bright object in the sky. The object was described as a glowing, pulsating light, which was initially mistaken for a star or aircraft. However, the behavior of this object soon led to more serious concern. It moved erratically and emitted a light so intense that it temporarily blinded those who looked directly at it. The Imperial Iranian Air Force scrambled two F-4 Phantom II jets to intercept the unidentified object. The first jet experienced complete instrumentation failure as it approached the object, forcing it to return to base. The second jet, piloted by Lieutenant Parviz Jafari, also encountered similar issues. As Jafari neared the object, his weapons and communication systems failed, only to return to normal when he distanced himself from the object. Eyewitness accounts from both military and civilian observers were largely consistent. They described the object as metallic and capable of maneuvers far beyond the capabilities of known aircraft at the time. Ground radar operators corroborated these visual sightings, confirming the presence of an unidentified object that exhibited extraordinary speed and maneuverability. Notably, during the encounter, another smaller object reportedly emerged from the primary UFO. This smaller object headed towards the ground, hovered, and then rejoined the main craft before both disappeared at high speed. The ground team that investigated the area the next day found no physical evidence to explain these observations. The incident was extensively investigated by both Iranian authorities and the U.S. authorities. The American report highlighted the credibility of the witnesses and the advanced nature of the UFO, concluding that it was a significant event that could not be easily dismissed. Several theories have been proposed to explain the Tehran UFO incident. The extraterrestrial hypothesis is the most popular theory among UFO enthusiasts. The extraordinary flight capabilities and technological interference suggest that the object may have been an advanced alien craft. Another theory claims that the UFO might have been a secret military project, possibly by a foreign power like the United States. Some skeptics argue that the sightings could be attributed to natural phenomena such as meteors or atmospheric anomalies. However, this theory does not adequately explain the radar data and equipment malfunctions experienced by the jets. Cryptids and cryptozoology represent the boundaries between folklore, myth-making, and science. These creatures are central to the study of cryptozoology, a field that seeks to identify and prove the existence of creatures not yet recognized by the mainstream. The term cryptid was coined in 1983 by cryptozoologist J. E. Wall in an effort to replace terms like monster with something more neutral and scientific. Cryptids are generally defined as animals whose existence is suggested by anecdotal evidence, but remains unproven or not accepted by mainstream science. This definition encompasses a wide range of beings, from the plausible but unverified to the completely fantastical. Also, quick shout out to my favorite fantastical cryptid, the giant shrimp in the laundry room. Cryptozoology can trace its origins to the works of zoologists like Bernard Heuvelmans. Heuvelmans' 1955 book, On the Track of Unknown Animals, is often credited with laying the foundation for modern cryptozoology. The field of cryptozoology is often criticized as pseudoscience because it lacks the rigorous methodologies and empirical evidence required by traditional scientific disciplines. Critics argue that cryptozoologists often rely on anecdotal evidence, eyewitness accounts, and unverified claims, rather than the systematic observation they claim is associated with science. As a result, many in the scientific community view cryptozoology with skepticism. However, proponents of cryptozoology argue that the field is a legitimate pursuit of knowledge, akin to early natural history, where explorers catalog new species based on limited evidence. They contend that just because something has not been scientifically verified does not mean it does not exist. The discovery of previously unknown species, such as the coelacanth or the okapi, which were once considered extinct or mythical, is often cited as justification for the continued search for cryptids. Further, some advocates for the legitimacy of cryptozoology counter that oral histories and folklore are increasingly found to match up with evidence in other fields such as archaeology. However, some conspiracy theorists believe that cryptids themselves are a conspiracy, and not in the way you may initially think. The idea that cryptids could be part of a psyop suggests that the narratives around these creatures are deliberately crafted. According to this theory, they are used to distract from more meaningful issues within the conspiracy theory community, or even test the spread of misinformation. One of the central claims in this theory is that sudden surges in cryptid sightings coincide with unrest. This could be seen as a form of social control, using the allure of the unknown and the sensational to occupy public discourse and media coverage. Additionally, as stated, some argue that the government could be testing the effectiveness of misinformation campaigns by observing how easily cryptid stories are believed and propagated. According to this story, multiple cryptid legends are propagated, each with varying levels of evidence associated with them. The government could then collect data on the penetration of these myths into the population and use this data in more traditional propaganda campaigns. Another theory suggests that belief in cryptids is simply enjoyable because it creates additional mystery and interest in our lives in an increasingly secularized world. Also, if you're interested in cryptids, my first ever Iceberg video was on this topic, and I spent 3 hours going fairly deep on them. If you like this video, please do me a huge favor and click the share button and send it to anyone who you think may enjoy it. And yeah, I release content every 2 to 3 days, so remember to click the notification bell and turn on all notifications for my channel. Remember to like and subscribe and check out the Patreon or YouTube membership to support the channel further. Also, big special shout out to new patron out of Gray's Mind. Shout out to my patrons Iced Mocha, Kurt the Squirt, Monoxide Wendigo, Jeffer Metcalf, Z-Volts, Courtney Hammett, Zach Steele, Franz Tech, Unknown Delusions, Faye, Jack Russell, Boomslang, Spooky as Becky, Vespertine, Metanova, Will Rowan, Crab Nebula, and Blasphemous.